The funding for this video is provided by the amazing members of our Patreon. Also contributions from viewers like you. Thank you. Yeah, I started from PBS Kids. What you gonna do? Fight me? Anyway, roll the video. This video, I did not have planned into the middle of my Disney December lineup. But because people continuing to listen to a rich man who is not smart, that man being Kanye West, I have seen a rise in bigotry coming from people who most definitely should know better. I think it's time that I do my part and tell people why anti-Semitism is wrong and that you should not be exercising this behavior. Also, we will be talking about Hitler's ugly ass briefly in this video, so that's that. Now, before we get started, I want to give a huge shout out to Hey Alma. They are a publication that specializes in educating the general public on Judaism and also calling out anti-Semitism in our mainstream media. I will have their website linked down below so you guys can check it out, simply because I am not Jewish and I cannot talk for Jewish people overall. I am a black woman that is Christian and with a somewhat big background, so I can do my part as an ally and speak up when something is wrong that is going on. But now is the time for you to, especially to be going to Jewish creators and listening to them directly just as well. Hey Alma covered Ye's comments more in depth here, and I will also have that link down below for y'all who would like to check it out. However, the gist of what's happened is this. Ye, who is black, wore a shirt bearing the white supremacist phrase, "White Lives Matter," during Paris Fashion Week. Right-wing pundit Tucker Carlson then platformed Ye on his show, Tucker Carlson Tonight, where they discussed the shirt and, weirdly, foreign policy. In that segment, Ye stated that he believed Jared Kushner, former President Trump's Jewish son-in-law and advisor, had broken the Abraham Accords between Israel, the UAE, and Bahrain in 2020 for profit. Many condemned Ye's statements as propagating an anti-Semitic stereotype. Later, Vice revealed that unaired footage from the interview contained more anti-Semitic comments from West. The next day, Ye posted a screenshot of a conversation between him and rapper Sean Combs, aka Puff Daddy and Diddy, to Instagram, which contained more anti-Semitic speech, though the post was taken down and Ye's comment was restricted. Finally, Ye took to Twitter where he tweeted that he would go DEFCON 3 on Jewish people. That tweet was also taken down and his account was restricted. Has Ye faced any repercussions for these actions? Since his statement, brands have partnered with Ye and companies that represent him have been pressured to drop him. Last week, fashion brand Balenciaga, whose fashion show Ye wore White Lives Matter shirt to, attended, severed ties with the rapper. Balenciaga has no longer any relationship nor any plans with future projects relating to this artist. The fashion house's parents company, Kering, said last Thursday. Fashion magazine Vogue followed suit last Friday. Anna Wintour had enough, an insider told Page Six. She has made it very clear inside Vogue that Kanye is no longer part of their inner circle. Even just today, creative artist industry, who represents Ye for touring, dropped him. As Emily Tompkin, author of the book Bad Jew, so often pointed out, a frustrating thing about anti-Semites alleging Jew controlled everything is that there are consequences for their actions. They just turn around and say it proves them right. Still, they're alleging it with a few fewer enablers and ties. There's a lot of talks of anti-Semitism going on because of Kanye West. He's just been showing his ass a lot more lately. Look, I have been off the Kanye wave since he said slavery was a fucking choice. Alright? And my dislike for him began when he just got with the Kardashians in general. Like, y'all wonder why the Kardashians are so popular now and we cannot escape them? Oh, Kanye is part to blame, alright? And you know, people associate rich as in someone with a lot of money, with being smart, and they think that if a rich person is saying something that they are automatically right, which has led to so many people taking Kanye's anti-Semitic behavior seriously, and they are now spewing anti-Semitic shit and bothering Jewish people. I have seen too many of y'all leaning to the right this year, and I want no part in it. Disney, no surprise, is a company that has many apologists. That meaning people who try to cover up for not just the company, its founder, who it's named after, Walt Disney. They come out and say that these claims of him being a nasty person are false, but they don't realize that when they try to say that he is not one thing, that being a bigot, they don't realize that they are also proving these claims to be correct. And a lot of them just don't want to shut up and listen. If the affected party said that Walt Disney was in fact wrong, you, who ain't it, should sit there and hear the affected party out. Disney adults have been trying to say that Walt Disney Company and just Walt Disney himself was not anti-Semitic for years. But numerous projects, even some of them being recent, along with the things he made when he was alive, it's not looking good for y'all. It's not looking good for y'all at all. So let's take a look back at when Walt was alive. Now, one of the major things that Walt Disney did when he was alive is that he met up with Leni Riefenstahl. Disney also personally hosted Nazi filmmaker Leni Riefenstahl when she came to promote her film Olympia in 1938, a month after the infamous assault on Jews known as Kristallnacht. Disney gave the propagandist a grand tour of his studio, and Riefenstahl even commented that it was gratifying to learn how thoroughly proper Americans distance themselves from the smear campaigns of the Jews. This is documented in the Steve Bach biography about filmmaker titled Leni. Though difficult to defend, the meeting with a prominent Nazi figure would be explained through their shared craft and business interests. Both were filmmakers enlisted at different times in their task of crafting propaganda as media limbs of the American and German government, respectively. A possible explanation for this meeting is that Disney wanted to get his films back into Germany after Hitler banned all American movies because Hollywood was, air quote, controlled by the Jews. However, Disney even criticized back then for receiving Riefenstahl shortly after the brutal Night of Broken Glass, which is, in a way you look at it, inexcusable. And overall, if you don't know who this woman is, she is basically the female adjacent to D.W. Griffith. Y'all know that person that we keep talking about on this channel that made the very racist movie titled A Birth of a Nation? Yeah. As D.W. Griffith made films, Leni was a filmmaker like him just as well, and she was a literal Nazi, and she was spreading that shit in her films. And it's also important to note that she idolized Hitler. Like, this fucker was like a Kim Kardashian type to her. It's honestly kind of questionable. And people were saying that Walt meeting up with her did not mean that he was anti-Semitic. And let me tell y'all something that I have just learned about a lot of white people as the years have passed. And I didn't figure this out until I began working around a lot of white people. But they be having no issue associated with white people with shitty views. And one of my coworkers was talking about this over with his friends, and he was saying that one of his best friends that he's very close with, his family, is conservative. And then he said that he may not agree with him on his political and social views, but they're still pretty close. And I'm sorry, but like, as a black woman, that shit is a no-go for me. Like, white people who call themselves allies be swearing up and down that they are allies, but then they be close friends with bigots. And people of color and just Jewish people and pretty much anyone who falls into the category of a marginalized group do not have the luxury of doing that. Remember that entire thing with Sydney Sweeney was getting ate up because her family threw like a Make America Great party and she went and she was like, my family's views are not a reflection of mine. And I'm like, yeah, Sydney, you are a conventionally attractive white woman who also is pretty well off. You have the privilege to do that because you are not a part of a marginalized group. I don't know what Sydney's sexuality is. That it's none of my concern. I haven't seen speculations of things in that sort, but overall she is a conventionally attractive white woman that, you know, has a very well-paying job. People of color and Jewish people, pretty much anybody that falls into the category of a marginalized group, don't have the luxury of doing something like Sydney Sweeney did. Because if a Jewish person were to become friends with someone who was anti-Semitic, they would feel unsafe with them. Like if a bisexual woman was dating a man who was homophobic, that would make her feel unsafe. And if a black person were dating a white person who constantly hung around racist people but weren't racist themselves, that would also make that black person feel unsafe. So for y'all to say that Walt Disney wasn't anti-Semitic but opened a Hitler stand with open arms into his studio says a lot more about him than y'all think. One thing about white people in the early 1900s is that if they weren't picking on black people, they were picking on Jewish people. Or both. Like Dr. Seuss. Yeah, I ain't never gonna stop dragging Dr. Seuss on this channel. But anyway, Disney is an example of this kind of white person who did both just as well. Remember those claims of people trying to say that Walt Disney wasn't anti-Semitic? I hope y'all know that a lot of y'all reflections be showing in y'all work. And one thing that people need to understand is that they're gonna put something in their work that is, you know, taboo. You need to prove that it's wrong and that you don't stand for that. But Walt Disney didn't do that shit, okay? So let's take a look. Baby, come on. I'm gonna grab your hand. Let's take a look at his works from when he was alive. And I'm gonna let you be the judge of that and not try to dance over the obvious. Plenty of the films that Walt Disney released when he was alive, short and full length, were based on and adapted from the Grimm fairy tales. And Grimm fairy tales, you guessed it, are rooted deeply in anti-Semitism. So Disney has this ongoing trend of making characters that are either villains or annoying comic relief to be Jewish stereotypes. And he treats them like objects and poking fun at them instead of treating them like people like he does the rest of them. I will take Captain Hook for example. I love Captain Hook down. Y'all know this. But literally one of my favorite Disney characters is sadly rooted in anti-Semitism, and it would be wrong for me to not own up to that. So when Walt Disney was alive, so much of what he found beautiful was rooted within both racism and anti-Semitism. The characters within these works are presented as good and beautiful features were different than the ones that he portrayed as goofy and villainized. And it's not that Walt Disney did this shit once or twice when he was alive. You could try and argue that if it was a simple mistake, if he did it out of ignorance and never did it again. But you can't argue that because that's not the case. Because he did it over and over and over and over again. So for you to sit here and say he didn't have some kind of ill feelings towards Jewish people is very much distasteful, and you're trying to turn away from the issue that was very much present there. I think it's time for a break. We'll be back after these short messages. Hi everyone, the captain here. I just wanted to get on here real quick and tell you guys thank you so much for your support. I have gotten so much fan art from you guys, and I've met plenty of y'all in person at the conventions that I have been at. And also thank you guys so much for coming to the panels that I host. It means so much to me. You guys are so great. I appreciate every little last bit of support you guys give me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I can say thank you 100 times, but I truly do mean it. Thank you. So recently, a friend of mine who is Jewish, I have been talking to him a lot about everything that's been going on. And during these conversations, something about the Owl House came up with the series being a bit anti-Semitic. So I asked him for his opinions on these things, and this is what he said. I am gonna make sure I have his name and all that blocked out. And by the way, I did have his permission to post these screenshots. So essentially with the Owl House, a lot of things came up about how like the main villain is a bit weird, but then also the main mentor figure in the show, her concept art is not good. This was the original form, and considering how Jewish people were constantly compared to birds and just, yeah. But the fandom lost its shit on Jewish people and told them that they were overreacting. The typical, oh, I'm a Jew, I don't care sort of tweets floating around. I'll see if I have it saved, but the one person who said during it all was, wow. If it isn't generic that some show me a Nazi imagery, show me the oven Belos is baking witches in, show me the gas chambers. Oh, right, you got none of that shit. Huh, weird, almost like it's telling a story about non-specific fascism. You know, a generic fascism. For context, people were saying Belos had Nazi imagery and Nazi connotations, and people were like, I can't say that. That's just generic fascism, and Jews weren't the only ones murdered. And then completely glossed over the Romana victims and other victims that were people of color and moved straight onto the fucking white people that were persecuted at the time. Because, of course, like, regardless of it or not, Belos was anti-Semitic or not, regardless if he was supposed to be referring to Nazis or not, the fandom showed it was not a safe space for Jews. I am telling y'all, fandom hates anybody that is not an able-bodied, straight, Christian white man. Fandoms hate women, fandoms hate people of color, fandoms hate fat people, fandoms hate people with disabilities, and fandoms hate Jewish people. Fandom is an awful ass place, and it's time that we start talking more about it. People be like, it ain't that deep, it's just fandom. No, a lot of y'all run to fandom, a place that is supposed to be fun, and you go there to, you know, express your bigotry because you think because this is all about fiction and pop culture and whatnot that it doesn't matter. And yes, the fuck it does, and it's time that y'all got called out for it. Over the years, we have still been seeing some anti-Semitism here and there with the Disney brand, but its most prominent example from the recent years would have to be Disney's Tangled, that came out in 2011, long after that man died. Possibly the most startling Jewish coded villain is Mother Gothel of Disney's Rapunzel's retelling Tangled. Though Disney has a long history of coded anti-Semitism dating back to the company's first animated movie, 1937 Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Gothel's case is definitely the most impactful. As it is seen in illustrated archives, this villain was originally drawn as an elegant Caucasian-looking woman, only to be edited to look like a stereotypical Ashikin. Oh Jesus, y'all, I am so sorry. Give me a sec. Ashkenazi Jew. The pronunciation of that word left my mind for a sec. I do apologize. Presumably as a means to appeal more air quote evil. Gothel was animated with a hook nose and a coarse black curly hair. All aspects commonly seen in anti-Semitic caricatures. Though these features on a villain alone are shocking enough, what is the most terrifying about Gothel's portrayal is the obvious case use of blood libel tropes. This can be described as a false belief that Jews kidnapped and murdered young Christian children in order to perform religious rituals, often associated with Manischewitz, wine, and matzah. Sound familiar? That's because it's thinly veiled in Gothel's portrayal. In Tangled, the main character Rapunzel is portrayed as a young, innocent white girl who is kidnapped by a Jewish villain who uses Rapunzel's magic essence to make herself appear younger. What is the laziest attempt of villainizing Jews in this character, and possibly the most hurtful, however, is that Gothel is a common Jewish surname. Oh, Disney, y'all knew better. Y'all should have known better. And what trips me out the most about this is because over the years, Disney does add that Jewish representation within their works, but then they go around and do something extremely anti-Semitic. That's why a lot of people just have a hard time taking representation from the Disney company seriously in general, because we'll get one good form of representation here and then we'll get it bad in another property. That just goes to show you that it's just so many people with this company and not all of them reflect each other. But it's not even just with Tangled that this issue is present in. The Disney Renaissance and After have this problem too. But with Tangled, it is much worse, because Mother Gothel's character in the movie, along with the things that she does, are very much present in the storyline, and it is very much rooted in anti-Semitism. I am not making this video telling you that you need to hate Disney. No, like, not at all. Disney is a company that is very much flawed, but it is also something that has brought us a lot of joy. As kids, when we are ignorant to everything we had, Disney was one of those things that made us happy. It's what we would turn to when we came home from being bullied at school or we failed a math test. And some of the characters we love and relate to come from Disney. Trust me, I get it. I completely understand. But it's so hurtful to find out that this company has numerous issues with harmful stereotypes. And the things are in a lot of favorite people's properties. It's okay for you to like Disney, but it's not okay for you to defend them when they're wrong. And they are dead wrong for their anti-Semitic behaviors. And you are wrong too for acting like it doesn't exist or don't find an issue with these things. Because of y'all not taking these issues seriously, that is why y'all are able to let rich people manipulate you into thinking that this shit is okay. Disney is a rich company, but that does not fucking mean that everything they put into their works is politically correct. But it also means that you shouldn't follow this behavior either. Like, I'm gonna be straight up. Anybody that is a creative watching this video, Disney villains are horrible references to use if you want to create your own villains. Because not only are a lot of them rooted in anti-Semitism, they are rooted in fat phobia, ageism, transphobia, homophobia, and racism just as well. Just because you like Disney, a rich company, does not mean that they are going to be right all the time. And just because Kanye West is a rich man does not mean that you should sit here and fucking believe his shitty views. Cause I work hard to get to this point in my life. I'm blowing up, so don't hate, just congratulate.
Powerpuff Girls will just blow your mind. Buttercup like villains 3 at a time. Bubbles will smile while kicking your butt, and Blossom will lead them out of their rut. Cherish and Powerpuff, 2 of a kind. Both wanna save the world before bedtime. From Townsville, Memphis, New York to LA, the Powerpuff Girls are just here to stay.